have everyone out here today. We're really here to recognize the contributions of Ralph Weiser. And, I mean, he's been a cornerstone of this community, as far as I know. And so many of us have wonderful memories of Ralph. He's a family man, a businessman, an aviator, a philanthropist, quite influential in politics and government, a friend of governors, senators, congressmen, and even presidents, and a friend of all of us. In fact, I was reading this. It brings tears to my eyes when I think about Ralph and the impact he's had on so many people. Got a couple of stories I want to tell. A couple of years ago, Ralph was flying a Cessna 172. We have some parked out here today in the Dallas area and had some engine problems. So he found the nearest airport. He landed there. Got an aviation specialist, we call him an A&P, to take a look at the problem. After it was fixed, you always kind of take a little test flight, you know, to be sure. But he strayed a little bit too far away from the airport, and the engine quit. So we call it a total engine failure. That's where it gets real quiet. Well, Ralph was equal to the task. He dived under a power line, landed on the highway, and both Ralph and the plane survived to fly again. When he got back to Magnolia, they held a mock wake for him. Some of his buddies, which kind of turned into a little party, I think. So that's an exciting thing. Another experience involved Ralph making a bad weather approach into Magnolia. And you know, when the weather's bad, sometimes the clouds may be 500, 600, 700, 800 feet off the ground, so you have to come down and break out and find the runway. With the family aboard, he was on his fourth missed approach to the airport. The weather was really terrible. On this fourth approach, Margot, sitting directly behind Ralph, put her hands on Ralph's shoulders and prayed, "Dear God, please let us land safely. I know you won't let anything happen to Ralph, and I'm hanging on to it." I love that. The fourth approach was a safe landing. I want to tell you a little bit about the airport. We're so glad to have you out here. Obviously, we want to draw attention to the airport because it's so important for us, because so many people arrive here as their first impression. We apply for federal and state grants all of the time. We just got one for the automatic weather observation system. In fact, if you call 901-3532, for the first time you'll hear Magnolia weather. Because it used to be flying into Magnolia, you'd have to check, well, you pull out your cell phone, try to see which way the wind was blowing. You might check El Dorado, you might check Camden. But we didn't know for sure what it was doing here. So that was a little bit of the problem. Now it comes on, it tells you which direction the wind's blowing, tells you what the barometric pressure is, tells you what the dew point is, tells you what the density altitude is, which means if you have a fully loaded plane, you take off on a hot day, it'll take more runway. And so that's all very important for us. Runway light project, and the gentleman I'm going to introduce in just a minute was a big important part of getting the EWAS and also getting the runway light replacement project that's coming. We're working on that as we speak. We also have avgas and jet fuel out here. We try to be competitive, so we do have people that land here to try to take advantage of our fuel prices. I want to thank everyone who displayed their airplanes here today. We have a variety of aircraft out here, and we have, believe it or not, 14 aircraft based out here in Magnolia. So we have to have at least 10 to get the federal grant. So we have 14, so that's really important. We'd like to have more. We'd love to have some flight instruction. So there are a lot of things that we'd like to see for the future. So I want to thank so much for everyone being here today. I'd like to introduce Gene McPherson. He's the immediate past chairman, and talked to me into getting involved with this. I'm so glad I did. But he called me and he said, "David, I'd love to see you on the airport commission." I said, "Well, that's a reasonable request." And he said, "But I want you to be chairman." I said, "Oh." Gene has really helped move us along. We have some other commissions who've been here in the past, and I think it's very appropriate. Gene, thanks for flying down. His airplane sits right out there at Bonanza, and we're glad to have you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank everybody for coming out. This right here, the number of people that you see is a tribute to Mr. Weiser, because but knew how important he was to this community. If you look in the FAA records, Magnolia Airport has been in existence since September of 1953. As a chairman of the Airport Commission, from time to time, I had to go digging through some of the archives. And I started seeing Mr. Weiser's name appear in about the early to mid-1960s. So think of that. 50 some odd years, Ralph Weiser was involved in part of Magnolia Airport. During his time that he was on the Airport Commission, there's been many changes in aviation, but there also have been many changes in Magnolia Airport as well. From a 3,500-foot grass strip when we started out, right now we're over 5,000 foot and it's fully paved, as you can see. From an ancient dot dash, it's a Morse-like system they used to use for navigation, to a fully GPS coordinated system right now that you plug in the 4-letter identifier for Magnolia, and if you've got an autopilot, it would take you directly to Magnolia and deliver you. Ralph was involved as far as making those approaches into Magnolia, those GPS approaches, viable. From the single World War II hangar that you see that we have out here, to all of the T hangars that we have that now house the 14 planes that David mentioned. And then from the, he's already mentioned this, but from the stick your finger and hold it up in the air to find out what the weather's doing, we now have an automated weather system. All of this, Ralph was part of the team that got the money, that got those systems here for us. So I'm really proud that I'm proud to have served with him. He was active in bringing aviation to Magnolia, and in doing that, he brought business to Magnolia. If you go to any other airports, Bob will echo this, and look at some of the studies that are done, you'll see how much every dollar that's spent on your local airport brings dollars to the local community. So I encourage Magnolia to continue to support our airport. Right now, as I'm sure you can tell, we can use a little bit of money in the air conditioning fund. So keep that in mind, whatever you want to. If you want to contribute to the airport in Ralph's memory, we would really appreciate that. Magnolia is a more prosperous city today because of the involvement of men like Ralph Weiser. And the city can be proud in taking the steps that we're taking this afternoon to remember his work, or the work of our friend and colleague, by renaming this the Ralph C. Weiser Field. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. We appreciate all your good work. I have talked to a number of people who have been involved with airports, airport commissioners of other towns, and they tell me sometimes there is a lack of city support for the airport, and that's a huge problem. Fortunately, here in Magnolia, we do not have that problem in any form because our mayor has been very supportive of the airport. It is tremendous. It makes a huge difference in terms of what we're able to get accomplished. The Airport Commission and the city work very, very closely together. They help us with all of our accounting and all of this. So I just want to say that Mayor Van has been tremendously supportive. I think it's making a difference, and I think it's going to make a great difference in the future. Mayor Parnell Van.
Thank you. Almost 7 years ago, I was one of 5 vying for the job of mayor. As you see, I was the lucky one, and that's because of you, and I thank you for that opportunity. I always knew that this airport was the hub of economic development. It does not come on the bus, it comes by air. I pulled the sheet out of my desk of airport commissioners, and Bruce Malek's name was listed. It didn't say representative and it didn't say senator, so I knew that sheet was old. But on there was Ralph Weiser. I'd heard the name Weiser Brown my whole life, had never met Ralph Weiser. Might see him in passing, but we didn't know each other. Was scared to call Ralph Weiser and ask him to re-up on the airport commission. But I did. Turns out to be one of the best friends I ever made. I asked Ralph, I said, where do we go from here? I said, I've heard the name Gene McPherson. He said, son, you go right now and get him. And Gene, thank you. Those were the 2 foundation stones that have made this place what it is today. We have great commissioners. Dr. Rankin, you do have big shoes to fill. But I could talk to Ralph about anything to do with this airport, and he had it cataloged. He didn't go to a file cabinet, he could tell me. last meeting with Mr. Ralph, he made me feel like a king. I don't look at myself as anything special. I'm just the hard-working guy that most of you have known my whole life. But we sat in that room for an hour and a half after that meeting, and he just started going through things in Magnolia and the way we did them then and how we can do them now. And I left there, and I can't tell you, I was walking on a cloud because I thought I have sat down with this man. And if you didn't know Ralph Weiser, as I told Margot, you didn't know he had 2 cents in his pocket. He made everybody feel special. He never flaunted anything that God blessed him with. But the most impressed I was is when he stood at Rotary and he told us all that I've got to go, but I'll see you again one day. Folks, that's faith that you're not scared to fly. And I thank God that I got to know Ralph Weiser. I'm thankful for his family. And thank you all for sharing Ralph with Columbia County and Magnolia for all these years. And y'all, we're blessed. We still have Ralph walking around all over the place. So thank you all for being here and what you do.
Well, the stories on Ralph and his aviation. Chris gave me one, Marco gave me another, and those are the two that came from y'all. And I'd like to have you come up just a minute and say a word, Marco, please. This family has done so much to Magnolia. They're very capable in business, obviously, but a great, generous heart, and had such an impact on so many lives. I was thinking driving out to the airport this morning, how many lives has Ralph touched? My gosh, I mean, you couldn't add it up. It's inestimable. You just can't do it. And a man like that and a family like y'all, such one, thank you for being part of Magnolia.
Thank you, and thank you, David, Parnell, and everybody else that was involved in putting this on today and this dedication to Dad. He loved Magnolia. He loved his involvement with the Airport Commission. And he always said that, first impressions are most important. So having a well-maintained, attractive facility out here will help our economic development in Magnolia. Dad was, as you well know, a very inspirational individual. And he inspired many of us. And I see around the room quite a few groups that he inspired out of his church families here, Columbia Associated for Specialized Services, some oil field trash.